Welcome, my friends, to the Sage Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight we talk geoengineering with my very special guests, Suzanne Maher and Greg Pallen. Suzanne is a prominent Canadian activist and the co-founder of the very popular Facebook group and website Bye Bye Blue Sky. Greg is a former 2012 US Congressional candidate, researcher, and geoengineering activist. His candidacy rocked the establishment as the entrenched political class worked overtime to keep Greg from winning the election. They may have won the battle, but not the war, as Greg continues his personal campaign to bring awareness and truth directly to the people. The conversation with Suzanne and Greg is wide-ranging as we first discuss Greg's initiative to raise awareness with the 2016 Chemtrail calendar, which contains the profiles of some of the hardest-working geoengineering activists from around the world. Links to purchase the calendar are contained in the show notes below. We also discuss how the political process is scripted and controlled in order to suppress the truth, and we wrap up the show by asking our audience to do all they can to keep the momentum going to ensure we defeat the geoengineering agenda. And to kick things off, I asked Suzanne how the idea of a chemtrails calendar came about, and here is what she had to say.
Basically, it was really Greg's idea, so I have to give him credit for it. And I want to thank Greg for all he does for the movement. So what we did, Mike, is Greg and I created a 2016 limited edition international men and women women's calendar of against chemtrails, and it was our objective for the calendar. I think was really to showcase unity and solidarity in the movement, and because it is increasingly growing, and we wanted to showcase the prominent activists, with cutting edge information. The techniques, the skills, and the abilities and how they translate the chemtrail agenda into a public forum. So this is what we're trying to do, and I think the activists in the calendar, Mike, are really breaking boundaries and creating awareness and change. So this is a calendar I think also we wanted to do to honor them. And for me, I come at this activism viscerally and cognitively and emotionally. So I come at it with my creative and artistic sensibilities, and my outreach reflects this. So none of us need a PhD to know what's going on here. We need our eyes and with a brain, and some critical thinking skills. So I think what we've done together is we've combined some wonderful people with different talents and specialties. And I think we've painted a really beautiful and diverse portrait of these amazing people and who are really working hard to expose the agenda. So, for example, we have researchers and authors, Lana Freeland, who discusses the military-industrial complex and their involvement in this, which is massive. We have Kara St. Louis, who's wonderful. She's really deep into the esoterics and the social engineering of society and our schooling system. And we have healthcare experts like Candy Griffin Van de Walker, who really uncovers the nanotech and the Morgellons and the smart dust in its history. So we also have me and Greg, activists like Terry Lawton and myself and Greg, who are really doing various outreach activities, protests, billboards. And we also thought it was really important to have an activist who actually also suffers with Morgellons, Mike. So we actually brought on a wonderful lady named Candy Nelson, and we wanted to showcase the research and knowledge of this insidious disease. I mean, it's important to include an activist educating and sharing her experiences of having this disease, and she's doing that, and she's just really wonderful. So, the subject I find of geoengineering is a really awful, uncomfortable truth. And so when you realize the nanotech and the Morgellons, and you really realize the depth and the absolute evil of this biowarfare, then what it's doing to our bodies, I think we really need to highlight the savageness of this agenda, this affliction, and what sufferers experience. And this is on a physical and emotional and spiritual level. I mean, because any one of us talking right now could be stricken with this disease. So we also want to show that being intelligent and having a brain is the new cool. And Greg and I talk about that, having a passion and being awake. That is the new sexy. Like, what's not sexy are zombie families, like the Kardashians. This is not sexy. And promoting a zombie culture like that. We also have a fabulous kid named David Castle, who's also featured on the calendar, and He's a 22-year-old young man who wrote a song called Digital Clouds, and I think this is absolutely mind-blowing. So David Castle is the new cool. I mean, an awake, intelligent young person who can really wrap the chemtrail agenda with brilliant clarity. So I think, Mike, what we hope to achieve with this calendar is like to create more of a chemtrail family and community. And we all need each other in this fight. I think we all need to support and commend other activists and their contributions. That is not done enough. And generosity of spirit and courage and determination and a willingness to share our ideas so others can do what we are doing. And the movement has been unnecessarily fractured. We all know that. And I think Greg and I wanted to inject some fun and some creativity and some spirit in a movement that really we need to build bonds, build bridges and trust, and hopefully we can create kind of a butterfly effect for people to really get off the couch and get up and get active, because this is what it's all about.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Suzanne, because you mentioned it's fostering a community or a family of activists, and it's certainly doing that, because I remember just going back maybe, 4 or 5 years ago, you had maybe two people that were the focal point of the geoengineering or the chemtrail type of activism. And today what I'm seeing is that there's a breadth of people with expertise coming from different areas of expertise, and everybody's contributing. And the awareness now is at a point that it's never been like this before. Many, many people are aware of what's going on, and the activism of yourself and Greg and Max Bliss, Michael Murphy, all of the folks that are involved in this has done a tremendous job of getting people to wake up. And I think the calendar is a brilliant idea because it's going to get faces and names out there. I think that's going to help. I think when you can place a face with a name, that's going to get people more comfortable with the folks that are out there and trying to get people to wake up to what's going on. So, Greg, you came up with the idea, and I think Suzanne touched on it a little bit, but what struck you that said, you know what, I think a calendar is the way to go?
Well, Mike, in looking at all the different activists that have done amazing work in our movement, I just felt like a lot of these people are working, I don't want to say independently, but I don't know that we're all working together maybe as optimally as we could. So I think anything you can do like this to create camaraderie. Terry Lawton, for example, and I have been going back and forth, and he sent me a Christmas song that he played on his guitar in Ireland, and I almost feel like he's more like a brother now than just the guy that I knew was a fellow chemtrail activist over in Ireland. And
Right.
It really has spurred a lot of communication, and that was, I think, the solidarity that it created, that it's already created. And another thing that it really, in my case, and I'm sure Suzanne would agree, I have spent the last 2 weeks looking at the work of the people that are in this calendar and that are going to be in the DVD to follow. And it is absolutely amazing what some of these guys and gals have done. Max Bliss, for example, I haven't seen a lot of his videos that he's done that are absolutely fantastic. Documented Agenda 21, weather history. He is an expert at that particular facet of the geoengineering chemtrail issue, and it's so amazing in looking at the hours and hours of video that anywhere in the DVD we'll probably end up with 14 or 15 different individuals, and I've spent probably 100 hours, if not more, looking at videos of work that I had never seen before, and absolutely amazing. And Max is so humble.
Yep.
That's what I get out of Max, is that he's not going to be one to say, oh, look at this and look at that. I didn't even know he had done a quarter of the work he's done. So impressive. It was hard to pick, especially for the DVD that's to come, which I think is going to be just beyond amazing. I've had a couple people call that this whole thing epic, and I'm not going to take credit for epic, but I think that it is going to be powerful because the calendar is going to be on office walls around the country. I had a guy send me a private message yesterday and say, I want to hang this up in my office so everybody, the 80 people that work in my office that walk by my desk are going to see, who is that on your calendar? Oh, what is that about? So it's going to create buzz in that way. But I think another key point is the education of activists. I've learned so much from, let's say, Candy Griffin Vandewalker, the dark side of chemtrails, the fact that she's got nano worms, nanotubes, nano claws crawling out of her skin, Buckminster fullerenes. I mean, this stuff is just nasty. It really is, and it's sad, and I think that side of it is just not addressed enough. So to get people, not to really, frighten them away, but to get them to see that this is something that needs to stop. And it's not just candy. Gosh, I've learned a lot from Dr. J. Marvin Herndon. Really everybody in this calendar is amazing. And I'm just trying to touch on a few of the people that, look at Michael's movies. He's reached millions with his What in the World and Why in the World, and just amazing work from all these people,
Yeah, no, this is what I was referring to before, Greg, is that we have folks from all walks of life with different skills and expertise coming together now. And it's making the whole chemtrails discussion, the whole geoengineering discussion more tangible, right? Because it's no longer a situation where many people can just say, oh, it's just a bunch of tinfoil hat wearers. This is out there now. You talk about the Morgellons, and look, if we have to rattle people's cages with them seeing what Morgellons is and what an outbreak looks like, if that's what it takes, then that's what needs to get done, because this complacency and this apathy, which is just so prevalent across the world, especially here in the Western culture, where people are just basically looking at their shoes and looking at their phones. So hats off to both you guys for doing the work that you do. And you mentioned Max Bliss. Max, I believe his videos were probably the first set of videos I started watching on YouTube. I didn't even know who Max was at the time. And he was just out there and he was filming. And I thought to myself, look at this guy go. So a lot of really, really good folks in the movement. Let me ask this question, and Suzanne or Greg, you guys can decide who wants to answer. How did you decide who was going to go into the calendar? Because I'm sure that was a tough decision.
You want me to start with that, Suzanne, and you can finish it, or the other way around?
Sure, you can go ahead, Greg.
It's hard to limit it to 12, Mike, and, sadly, you can't make everybody happy. But I think what we were looking for is just people that have showed the willingness to share the spotlight, people that have worked exceedingly hard and been consistent. Several of the entries, like Homage, David Castle, the hip-hop artist, I think what he did with his song, now he hasn't been a chemtrail activist for probably as long as Suzanne and I, but if you read the lyrics to his song, they are absolutely amazing. For a kid of this age to come up with a song that powerful. I mean, I bet you I listened to that song, I bet you I listened to it 50 times, and I bet you now I've listened to it 200 times. I actually, sometimes when I get down, I fire his song up and I listen to it.
Yeah.
Because it inspires me. And that's what we need, is inspiration to cause people to take action, to get involved. And so, that I think I haven't seen much criticism, but and again, it's hard to include everybody. And these are tough choices. And basically what Suzanne and I did is we both came in with picks. Suzanne's a fantastic person. I've worked really hard in this movement for a long time. And we took other people's advice, too, of who they thought would be good picks, and obviously discussed this thing. But, you can get to a point where too many cooks can spoil the broth. And I think we've got people that are uncompromised, that have been consistent in the movement, that are groundbreaking researchers, musical artists, authors, street activists, and every one of these people, I think, has a passion that just lights up the movement, you know?
I would agree with that. Suzanne, anything to add?
Yeah, I think that we got a really well-rounded group of people, and as Greg says, I think we chose a lot of the really predominant people that are standing out and really making really great strides. I mean, Ilana's book, Kara's book, I mean, Candy Griffin's, research on the Morgellons illness, and showcasing someone who actually has the illness, and showing that hard, ugly truth, because it is what it is. So I think while educators like, okay, for example, Ilana and Kara and Candy, they equip us with the knowledge, okay? So we need to do that. With that knowledge, we pick up the baton and we pass on that information. So people like myself, like Greg, like Terry, like Max, we're going out and we're disseminating it. So I think that it was a really good team, and we're showcasing a little bit of everybody's talent. So I think what Greg and I wanted to do, Mike, is I think we really are uniters in the movement. And so, you know, we can't be activists in a vacuum. So we wanted to reach out, we wanted to connect with these people, and we all have to do this. We all have to, and it's not comfortable, but we all got to get off the couch. I mean, this is very serious. Like we are at a precipice, and that is not hyperbole. So I think this calendar hopefully will break down more walls, and this is airing our grievances publicly. So I think it's a fabulous idea, and I think next year, if it's well received, we're going to do it again, and we're going to choose another 12 that are doing great work. But I think these people are really revolutionaries and groundbreakers that are in the calendar, and I believe that.
Now, how many calendars are there, and how does somebody obtain a copy?
The initial calendar purchase, Mike, was my gift to the movement. I ordered 250, and I shipped, I think, 100 to Suzanne and 150 to me here in Atlanta. And then out of that 150, I shipped, I think, 35 to Europe, to the different individuals that were in the activists that were in the calendar that are all personal friends of mine. And Suzanne shipped, I think, the other half. We kind of decided who would ship to who, and I shipped a box to Europe, and I handled a couple of the other activists, and then Suzanne handled her group, and I think we have probably somewhere at least 100 left, and we've already raised through my Stop the Spraying page. What we're encouraging people to do is either go to Suzanne's page or my page, and for a $25 donation to either her donate button or to my GoFundMe page, that individual will receive a calendar, and that money will go directly into the billboard funds. We're volunteering all of our time. Mary Lou, my better half, is mailing out calendars today to people that have made $25 minimum donations, and some people have made more than that. Some people have given $50. So we're already halfway to another billboard, which is, just a few days. So I'm really impressed with that. Every time we reach $1,000 down here with my billboard, we can reach 1 million people. My billboard, I say 1 million, it's 930,000. The last time I placed this billboard, it reaches 930,000 people. So even if 1% of those people click on aircraft or bye-bye blue sky, you're going to get a lot of opening minds. So again, the donations come in. Every time we get 20 donations at $25, that's $500. That's halfway to a billboard, and I have a feeling that we're going to reach $1,000 here. I should be announcing a billboard going up pretty quick. And again, all of this is, I want to stress that all of our records are open. Anybody that wants to see what's coming in, they can go to the GoFundMe, and if they want to see how it's being spent, everything is transparent. Mary Lou is a former CFO. She's a smart girl, and she's an honest person. Everything is open to audit if anybody wants to see it. So we're not here to make money on this thing. It's about waking people up and getting billboards up. And the more billboards we we put up, the more people we introduce this issue to.
Okay, excellent. And Greg, if you give me your links, I'll include them in the show notes.
Yes.
And I'll incorporate them into the slideshow with the video as well. Now, when we talk about the billboards, let me ask this question. Suzanne, I thought I saw on Facebook that you have your placards back in the train stations?
I did. I actually did a Christmas campaign, Mike, and they were back up with the Bye Bye Blue Sky message, and there was no issue this time. It wasn't as kind of in your face as the last one talking about chemtrails. They didn't like that word, so I just used exactly my billboard that I have up here in Ontario. It's look up, your weather is engineered. So, or actually, I asked the people, is your weather engineered? Made it a question, made it a little bit intriguing, and I've got some very good feedback from it with, again, donations. And so it was a good response, and I will try and do it every single year. I'm just going to keep it up because I am getting donations, through Bye Bye Blue Sky. To keep it going. And most of it is self-funded. Most of my work is self-funded, but I do get a few donations. And again, like myself, all my donations are transparent. If anybody wants to see what I'm getting, I put every single donation on Bye Bye Blue Sky, so it's on a rolling tab there so they can see it. So we are actually, this is exciting though, I currently have 2 billboards up in Ontario right now, Bye Bye Blue Sky. We're just getting a third one up beginning of January. This is going to be in Cambridge, Ontario, and it's a roadside TV, Mike. And so all my donations from this calendar are going to this campaign in Cambridge. And basically, we're going to be looking at almost 2 million views a month with this roadside TV. So it's pretty exciting. And I encourage everybody to get a calendar because this is going to a wonderful cause. This is awareness, and awareness is the key to resistance. So people can also get the calendar in Ontario, not just at byebyebluesky.com, but they can get it at a friend of mine. He owns a bookstore in Toronto. His name is Patrick White, and he owns Conspiracy Culture Bookstore. So he's at 1344 Bloor. Anybody in and around Toronto can pick up a copy of the calendar there, and it will just be a $20 flat rate with no shipping. So folks in the U.S. can go to Greg. Folks in Canada can come to me, and again, supply is limited, so not a whole lot left.
Okay, now let me ask this question to Greg. I did a show recently with Jolie Diane and Michael Murphy where Jolie did a fabulous thing. I mean, she was able to get to almost all 50 states, representatives of all 50 states in the United States. She went down to D.C., and she had her package of information, and she had her presentation and her pitch, and she was saying that the reception was actually pretty good, that she got the time and the attention of the folks that are looking at environmental issues and the such. Now, I know that, Greg, you ran for Congress back in 2012. So what is your perspective? Are we seeing an awakening or an awareness within the U.S. Congress, as an example, that wasn't there maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago?
Yes, I definitely think that we are. One thing I can tell you, having run for Congress, it's very typical to get 1 minute or 2 minutes to answer debate questions. There really is no such thing as a debate because there is no back and forth. So they make it very difficult to bring up an issue like geoengineering / chemtrails in a political forum because they can paint you very easily as a conspiracy theorist or conspiracy nut because you just don't have enough time to paint the picture that you need to paint in 1 minute or 2 minutes. And much of the discussion is guided. So the system is very, very controlled, no doubt about it. And I did talk about chemtrails when I could, when I felt it was appropriate, that I couldn't be run out of town on a rail when I brought it up, in a 1 minute comment with no rebuttal. And when I decided to do that and bring up some other issues that are very near and dear to my heart, like thimerosal in the vaccines, water fluoridation, GMO food, all these things tied together, boy, the entire system, sadly, both Republican and Democrat, worked to destroy me. I had 2,000 of my campaign signs that I put up with my own hands, blisters through 2 sets of gloves in Georgia, red clay, that I put in a lot of these signs myself. We had all our campaign signs systematically removed the night before the election. So you're playing hardball when you run for U.S. Congress and you're out there trying to wake people up to the truth. If you're willing to talk about jobs and economy, and they might let you talk about the Federal Reserve, but not go too deeply into it. If you go beyond that, and that's probably why, I ask you if you've heard any of the candidates, including Trump, talk about chemtrails. I don't think it's going to happen. Now, to address your question more succinctly, I do think that these Congress people, our representatives, are going to have more trouble brushing this issue under the rug because more and more people are becoming aware and they're hearing from their constituents. And I think people do need to go to these public forums when candidates hold them and ask, get up and press your local reps, your state reps, your national reps on this issue and put their feet to the fire. That's one thing I don't ever remember when I ran for Congress. Not one person asked me publicly about this issue. People kind of whispered behind the scenes when I was talking outside, might bring it up after a debate or, they call it a debate. But it needs to be more mainstream. It's going to take people, again, pressing these candidates publicly to where they have to they have to answer the question, Yeah,
they just stick to the issues, and I don't even call them issues. I mean, it's really the storyline, and they don't deviate from it. And it's unbelievable. I mean, you said you had 2,000 of your signs destroyed. If that doesn't send a message or make people think about how corrupt the system is, I don't know what will.
Well, and you could say that, well, maybe they blew down or
not 2,000 of them.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting reports from all over my district whereby, and this can make anywhere from a 2 to 5% difference in the vote count, if you even trust the vote count, that is.
Yeah.
But bottom line is when people go into voting precincts and they see Pallen, that's the only guy that name they recognize or the name they remember, and they don't know either candidate, it makes a difference. So tearing down all those signs, and the reason I found out about it was I went to get my hair cut the next day, and I'm talking to my barber, and I'm like, where's my sign that was out front? And said, oh, it's still out front. And I said, no, it's not. It's in the ditch across the street. And I started hearing reports from all the different precincts from some of my volunteers that said, all your signs were gone, So that's just really, I literally had the head of the Republican Party in my own county going door to door to people that had Pallen signs on their front yard. Now, granted, I ran as a liberty-minded Republican. I believe in the Republican platform, but sadly, a lot of the Republicans are not adhering to the Republican platform,
Right.
So, they didn't like me. They didn't like me talking about some of the things I was talking about, and they were just the real issues,
Yeah, well, these people are all owned, Greg. I know you know this. They owe favors. They're compromised in some way. At least this is my perspective. I'm not speaking on behalf of Greg. So this does not surprise me. It really doesn't surprise me. Anybody that goes out there that wants to speak the truth and tell the folks the way it really is, they're going to be vilified. What they did to you, I mean, that's indicative of what they do. I mean, if you go back and take a look at Ron Paul when he was running and how the shenanigans that were going on with the primaries and the caucuses, a very similar type of thing where they're going to make sure, come hell or high water, that this person is not going to get in. They pull out all the dirty tricks, and this is what they do.
No doubt about it. And they engage us in this left-right paradigm whereby we get Burger King and McDonald's like always. And then they might throw in a, monkey wrench, Donald Trump that gives the people another distraction or a third choice to make it seem like it's a, free and open election. But bottom line is, I've done a lot of research on Trump and, his bankruptcies and just his lack of humanity. I personally don't like him. I just don't think he's a good human being. And I'm just being honest, and we need somebody in there that, if I buy an apartment building, I'm not going to throw everybody out the next day,
Yeah.
So if you do the research on a guy like Trump, you'll find out that he lacks humanity. He's got a lot of ego. And, hell, I guess if I was allowed to go bankrupt 5 times, you and I might be billionaires too. So if you can just start over and hit the restart button.
Well, look, he's anchored in the system. He doesn't have the money that he has because he's a maverick or a wild duck. He was a developer in New York City, and for those things to happen, you've got to play ball with the establishment. You have to play ball with the very element that constitutes what we call the matrix. So I don't even want to say my jury is out. I watch it from a distance, and sometimes I look at the whole political arena, Greg, quite honestly, and I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. It's almost like I'm watching a theater presentation, some kind of movie that I really wish wasn't reality for so many people.
Well, people stay invested in this system, and sadly, it would appear you took the words right out of my mouth while you were talking. I was thinking that it's theater. It's just political theater.
Yeah.
While they spray the living daylights out of us, we're concerned who's going to be our next president. Whether it's going to be Hillary or,
right?
Our local South Carolina, Lindsey Graham pulled out, and we're invested in this while we should be looking up and fighting our own poisoning.
Yeah, well, I don't know where these guys and these ladies are, where their heads are at, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to benefit from this. Obviously, they believe that there is some kind of payoff for them at the end, there's some kind of reward for towing the line. So it's a very sad state of affairs, and we really do need more people like yourself to step up and do the things that you're doing and try to get into that political system. Some people will say, look, the political system is so corrupt, it's so subverted that it's beyond repair, but I don't know about that. I think if you get the right people in there, then the system can be resurrected and we can start seeing some very positive changes and positive things coming out of it. I'm assuming you view it the same way, otherwise you wouldn't have run.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not so sure I trust the voting process.
Yep.
In terms of the actual vote tabulation.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother radio show, really. But bottom line is, I think I'm fully supportive of anybody that's willing to run for U.S. Congress or any office. But I personally have made a decision to work from the outside and go directly to the people in terms of if the candidates and our existing reps won't address these issues to their constituents, then let's go directly. Let's bypass them if necessary and go directly to the million people a month that will see a billboard that Suzanne is putting up or I'm putting up, or I've been running billboards since probably 2010 on different causes that are near and dear to my heart,
Yeah.
Michael Murphy's What in the World Are They Spraying was one of my first, actually, years ago.
So, Suzanne, the political process in Canada, the same script that we have here in the United States that Greg was just taking us through?
I think it's exactly the same. Sadly, I just think there's a book here called Holding the Bully's Coat by Linda McQuaig, and I think this is exactly what we do. We toe the imperialistic line, and we're just following in lockstep with you guys. I don't think the agenda has progressed as far as it has with you guys. You guys seem to be ramping it up, but we're following right in lockstep. And Justin Trudeau has just committed to spending almost $4 billion on the non-issue of climate change, giving away to third world nations, so we can see where he's coming from. In terms of politicians here, the ones that I've seen speak out here, and I actually met this gentleman at a march here. It was the Canadian Defence Minister, former Canadian Defence Minister of Canada, Paul Hellyer, and he openly comes out and talks about geoengineering, as does Bill Vander Zalm, who's the former Premier of BC. So what we're seeing here is almost more of the former politicians coming up, stepping up and talking about this. Now, there is a party I want to mention where I live because they're doing really great things, Mike. They're called the Canadian Action Party, and a few of the candidates are my friends. The president is my friend, and we actually had a protest in Huntsville wherein these two gentlemen attended. But I agree that it is a corrupt system. But gentlemen like this, I do believe, can make a difference because their platform is reinstating the Bank of Canada, getting Monsanto out of our country, stopping forced vaccinations, and we actually are working on getting some legislation in town to stop geoengineering, because you figure the county of Maui is doing this. They're implementing this. Why can we not all do this at a local county level if they are? It makes sense to me. And these guys, actually, I think they're great. They have a lot of integrity. So I've been working with them on this as well.
Now, Greg, we'll go back to you for a second. When we talk about the rate and pace of the awakening, and I know more and more people are awakening, I'm seeing it myself because I have folks that I know, family members and friends that 3 or 4 years ago, they just thought I was a kook talking about the fact that they're spraying the skies. But a lot of these people now, they're seeing it. It's rolling up on their doorstep. So what are you seeing from your perspective? Are you seeing a rate and pace that's meaningful? In other words, it's growing at a rate in which we can turn the corner and make a difference?
Most definitely. I think that clearly it's growing pyramidally, and there's a formula for that. You know, if one person tells 2 people and those 2 people tell 3 people, and you've seen that before, you know, at the end of the month there's 5 million people. Bottom line is, by putting up these billboards, and really what I wanted to see, and I hope I do live to see that day, is billboards all over the country, one in every major city. That's what I'd really love to see. And we've got to put our relatives, our family, we have to put their feet to the fire in terms of, you know, there's so much wealth in this country, and how long are people going to just sit on their wealth? I personally, I'm talking, you know, to my mother last night, and she's telling me the kind of contribution they made to Wounded Warriors. And I have nothing against Wounded Warriors, but if you're going to give a large sum of money to Wounded Warriors, then maybe you should give a large sum of money to a billboard campaign that would, you know, stop the geoengineering and or that would try to wake people up so we can reach critical mass, so we can do marches on Washington and more people hitting the congressional offices, and not just Jolie Diane, but we need an army of people to be doing this. And so I think it's key to not only reach out to that rich uncle and make him see this, and don't allow him to slough it off, and ask him for a donation. I almost look at this thing like a business. I was pretty successful in business early on in my life, and I think a lot of the same principles apply. You know, there's a lot of my customers that I've been doing business with for 30 years that they laugh now, and they said, my gosh, you contacted me 50 times, you know, and I gave you some business so you'd leave me alone, you know. Yeah. And I think it's true. I think you got to be persistent, and I'd love to see people take these calendars. I think 250 was just the start. I'd like to see 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, and activists within this community taking these calendars out and, you know, getting whatever donation they can, because not only do they get a donation for a billboard cause and start their own billboard, by the way, they can put up their billboard on Stop the Spraying. That page, we put that together so that other people could do their own billboards across the country. So they could start their own GoFundMe. They can use the calendar idea or the DVD idea when that comes out to get donations, to give people something in return for their donation, as if, you know, waking up millions of people isn't enough, because the money is going directly towards the billboard. But people love to get something. And what a great way to educate, you know, the public while you're getting them to help out with the billboard, which again wakes people up. So I do think that the more people that we inspire to do these things, and business cards, I have little cards. Suzanne has cards, you know, everywhere you go, give out a card. I keep them in my pocket every single place I go. Make yourself do it. Go in a restaurant, have dinner, give somebody a card, even if it's one. It isn't that hard. And once you do it 1,000 times or 3 times, it gets easier every time, you know?
Yeah, and I have actually a little message for my Facebook friends. It's along the same thread. that it's okay. If I'm putting stuff up, interviews, or I'm putting some articles up and posting them up on Facebook, and you hit the like button, I'm glad that you like it. But what I really would like you to do is to become kinetic. That means to do something with it. In other words, so as an example, if you can contribute to the calendar, if you can contribute toward the billboards, if you would call your congressperson based upon the last show I did with Jolie Diane and Michael Murphy, those are the things that you need to do. What I'm seeing is too many people, yeah, they're interested. They're saying, oh, this is really bad, but I still want more people to push that wagon forward until the wheels fall off. Do something, activate. We need more activation. There, I said my piece.
Most
Well,
definitely.
I've said this to Greg, and he said that I should talk about this because for me, Mike, I was an introvert all my life, and the thought of doing interviews and speaking and outreach booths and talking to people, I mean, it would probably have made me quake in my boots 10 years ago. I mean, it was scary, but I picked up my spear and I got courageous and I got out there. And for people who haven't done this type of activism, it's so liberating. I mean,
Yes.
out there and speaking the truth, and even if you might encounter a negative reaction, because you're going to, it's a given, the rewards of speaking the truth and coming from an honest place is so really, it's so satisfying. And I think it neutralizes the negativity you may encounter. And knowing that you're creating a ripple effect by going out and talking to people and telling them the truth, I mean, it's breaking those societal chains that have bound us for so long. And so just getting out and speaking to people, and I think for me it's been ultimately more satisfying than any paying job I've ever had, is to actually go out and speak truth and not be afraid. So that's my advice too.
Yeah, people will say to me, they'll say, Mike, aren't you concerned about covering these topics? Aren't you scared? And I say to them, look, you know what? I feel safer knowing the truth, because if I know the truth, then I can't be deceived. I can't be duped. I can't be bamboozled into something. And to be honest with you, like you just said, Suzanne, it's very liberating to be in that position.
It's great. Yeah, it's very, very satisfying. So yeah, I just encourage everybody to do it. And it's not hard. And you know what, Mike? It's not always comfortable, and it won't be the first few times, but it does become, it's totally okay with me to go out there and talk to people in supermarkets or restaurants or bookstores or even on the street. As soon as someone makes a comment to me about the weather, bam, I'm on them. Okay, there you go. I'm talking to you. If you like it or not, I'm gonna tell you about the weather.
Do they listen?
Well, it all really depends. It really depends their level of understanding, their level of awakening. But I think you can always come at it from a different perspective, because someone's going to be interested in food. Someone's going to be interested in their health. Someone's going to be interested in the declining ecosystem. So I always find out which way to go, where are they interested, and then I just, grab onto their frame of reference and do it from that perspective.
Yeah, what I get here is a lot of folks will say, gee, the weather is really wacky in North Carolina. I don't remember it ever being like this. And of course, this is over the last, I want to say, 4 or 5 years. As an example, today, we're about 2 days out from Christmas. It's 75 degrees. And we have this stint now where it's going to be in the mid 70s right through Christmas. So although, in the past we have had our periods of time during the winter where it would warm up, it's never been like this, ever been like this. And more people are starting to see this, especially a lot of the folks in the North Carolina area for a long period of time. There are a lot of farmers, as an example. They're seeing it. So there is an awakening. And I do the same thing. I try to engage them to try to explain to them, especially if it's not cloudy and we could see the aerosols being sprayed, I'll point up and say, this is a big reason why we're having the weather that we have. Those guys up there, they're spraying. They're manipulating the weather. Some of them catch on or connect with it. Others, they just glaze over. They just don't make the connection. So, but anyway, the point being, I guess, is you just cannot stop. You have to keep going.
I think for people for all of us, it's just kind of a fire that's been ignited. It's a passion to get out there and speak the truth. And you know what? Science says eventually you keep pressing and pressing hard against that wall and it will fall. And I do believe it will fall. I think it's an eventuality. Hopefully it comes sooner than later. Who knows when and how much more damage this is going to ensue. But we can only keep working hard.
Well, it gets frustrating, but what I tell folks also is, don't beat yourself up because we're up against a massive propaganda machine.
Yes.
That's the thing that, a lot of times activists, they kind of forget, they get frustrated and like people are not listening. Well, you are up against a huge mind manipulation agenda. And, they go at the masses 24/7, perpetual motion machine of mind control and propaganda. And this is what we're breaking through. But ultimately, the truth will prevail.
I think so. And this is where, again, that team effort comes in. And I think staying connected to everybody and getting to know our brothers and sisters who are fighting for the same rights and freedoms that have been stolen from all of us. We're all in the same boat. So get to know them, support them, get along with them, and information share. And let everybody know what a great job they're doing. And like this includes everybody in the movement because, people want to be acknowledged for their efforts and know they're appreciated. And this is why we did do the calendar as well. So,
It's a brilliant idea. It really is. So we are pushing up at the top of the hour. And Greg, have any final thoughts? And then we'll go to Suzanne.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it's very clear that, one man is not going to win this battle. Again, thinking back on the teamwork that was involved in becoming successful in my business, you need a team and you have to acknowledge their efforts. And it's not a one-man show. The most successful people I know, and I was pretty big on talking when I was a lot younger, talking to older gentlemen and ladies that had been successful and asking the question, how did you become successful? What did you do? And a lot of it is working through other people and helping other people and empowering other people. So I think we need to do that in this movement, raise up other people. God, I hope we can get hundreds of activists like we have in the calendar and thousands. I think we probably already have hundreds. I'd love to see it tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands so that when we do have marches, we can mobilize large groups,
Suzanne, how about yourself?
I just like to say I just want to thank Greg for having this wonderful idea and bringing it all together because I think it's a great success. I think it's a great success because people are getting to know each other and connecting, even notwithstanding, getting the donations and putting up the billboards. So I'd like to tell everybody to, please help support the movement. And this is a gift of awareness. So give it to family and friends. And I want to say if Greg has his quote there, maybe he could read the quote on the cover of the calendar because to me it really says it all.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. I was sitting with a cup of coffee about a week ago looking at the crowd stream and had a few profound thoughts at about 6 a.m. And the quote reads, "There is no greater gift one can offer his fellow man than education, enlightenment, and the empowerment to improve his condition through action."
That's absolutely true.
Loved it. Loved that.
Yeah, it's great. Greg, how do people get in contact with you? Website, stuff like that?
I don't have a website. I spend most of my time, I'm primarily a researcher. I do a lot of research, but my Facebook page, Greg Pallen, GregPallen, the number 4 Congress, which is my congressional page that Facebook would not allow me to change the name of without losing my following. That's why and it does say I'm a former congressional candidate, but I didn't want to lose my following that I had spent years building. And I want people to know I ran for Congress. I want people to know I tried the system, the conventional way, and now I'm kind of bypassing and going directly to the people. So Greg Pallen for Congress is my Facebook, and I hope people check it out.
Okay. All right. And Suzanne, you have your Facebook page, but you also have a website.
I do. ByeByeBlueSky.com. Check it out.
Okay. Well, look, this has been a fabulous conversation, and Suzanne, thank you for introducing me to Greg. And I would love to have you guys come on together again or separately, whatever. All you need to do is just email me, and we'll do another show and talk about whatever it is that you guys feel is important to talk about.
Mike, can I say one last thing?
Sure.
Thank you so much for what you grew. You're clearly a very intelligent, very caring person. Your questions are fantastic. This thing I think was totally unscripted, which is nice. I didn't know what you were going to ask me. I wasn't really prepared for any certain questions. You did a fantastic job. You are very good at what you do, and I appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you, Greg. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Ditto.
Well, you guys are awesome. You rock. And I'm going to personally contribute to the get a calendar into the billboards today. And for those that are listening, as I mentioned before, just don't press the like button on Facebook or on the videos. Engage. And engage means open up the pocketbook a little bit and help out, because we can use all the help that we can get. All right, you guys, have a great, great holiday, a great Christmas, and I'll catch you on the flip side in 2016.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
And that concludes another Sage of Quay interview, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Links to my guests' websites and social media are included in the show notes below. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com, or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.
I don't need your bone.